What if I told you that the city the world knows for country music, honky tonks, and bachelorette parties quietly invented one of the most copied flavor profiles in American food history? And almost nobody gave it credit for decades. That the first combination candy bar ever sold in America was born here in 1912 in a copper kettle and named after a baby's first words? That the dish that built a national fast food category started not in a test kitchen, not in a corporation's boardroom, but as an act of revenge by a woman who has never been given a last name by history? Nashville is a city that creates things and then watches the rest of the country claim them. 10 foods. One city that's been cooking since before anyone was paying attention. Welcome to First Taste. Let's decode this. Food 1. Nashville hot chicken. We start where we have to start. It's the 1930s. Thornton Prince is a man with a reputation in Nashville, specifically a reputation for staying out late and not always being where he said he'd be. One Sunday morning, his girlfriend decides she's had enough. She fries him a chicken breakfast, the Sunday tradition in black communities across the South, and loads it with so much cayenne pepper that she's certain it will make him miserable. It doesn't. Thornton Prince loves it. He loves it so much he shares it with his brothers. They all love it. Together they spend years perfecting the recipe. Cayenne-heavy spice paste, lard as the base, fried in a skillet, served on white bread with pickle chips to cut the heat, and open the BBQ Chicken Shack on the north side of Nashville. The restaurant operates entirely within the city's black community, mostly invisible to the white Nashville of the 1930s through 1970s. In 1980, Thornton's great-niece Andre Prince Jeffries takes over. She renames it Prince's Hot Chicken Shack. The city starts to notice. By 2007, Nashville launches its annual Hot Chicken Festival. In 2012, Hattie B's opens and takes the dish mainstream. In 2016, KFC adds Nashville hot chicken to its national menu. And suddenly, a dish that black families in East Nashville had been making for 80 years is on menus from London to Seoul. The revenge recipe became a city's identity. The woman who made it has never been remembered by name. Her great-nephew Thornton got the credit, and Nashville still doesn't fully reckon with that. Food 2. The GooGoo Cluster. It's 1912. Howell Campbell Sr. is running the Standard Candy Company on Clark and First Avenue in Nashville, and he's experimenting. Before this moment, candy bars were single-ingredient propositions. You got chocolate, you got caramel, you got taffy. One thing, that was the entire industry. Campbell and his plant superintendent Porter Moore mixed something different in a copper kettle. Caramel, marshmallow nougat, freshly roasted peanuts, all coated in milk chocolate. A roundish, irregular mound of 4 distinct things pressed into one. It's the first time in American candy history that multiple elements have been mass-produced as a single retail confection. The name comes from a streetcar ride. Campbell tells his fellow passengers about the new candy and can't think of a name. A schoolteacher asks about his young son. Campbell says the boy just said his first words. GooGoo. The teacher tells him that's his name. The GooGoo cluster went on sale in 1912 and was immediately popular in Nashville. In the 1920s, Campbell's son made it the official sponsor of the Grand Ole Opry, a partnership so effective that many people still think the name stands for Grand Ole Opry. It doesn't. It's older than the Opry by 13 years. In the 1930s, during the Depression, GooGoo clusters were marketed as a nourishing lunch for a nickel. Dolly Parton had them flown to the set of her movies. The candy is still made in Nashville. The combination candy bar, Snickers, Reese's, Twix, every one of them, starts here, in that copper kettle, in 1912. Food 3. Meat and 3. This one doesn't have a single inventor. It has an entire city. The Meat and 3 is Nashville's answer to the question, how do you feed a factory worker in 15 minutes without making them eat something bad? The format is simple. 1 meat, 3 sides, cornbread, sweet tea, served cafeteria style from a steam table. But what's inside those categories is a complete vocabulary of Southern cooking. Fried chicken or pork chops or meatloaf for the meat. Turnip greens, black-eyed peas, mac and cheese, candied yams, okra, mashed potatoes, pinto beans for the sides. Everything made that morning, everything hot. The term is believed to have originated in the employee cafeteria of Nashville's May Hosiery Mill in the 1930s, where workers paid 25 cents for a choice of meat and vegetables. as Nashville industrialized and the city filled with former farm workers who needed a fast midday meal, the format spread. Hap Towns had a food cart by 1921 that became a legendary lunchroom. The Pie Wagon opened in 1922. Sweats opened in 1954 and became the spiritual home of the tradition in Nashville's Black community. The Meat and Three is the great equalizer of Nashville food. John Egerton, the journalist who dedicated his life to Southern food history, observed that at a great meat and three, Porter Wagoner stands in line next to a postman, who stands next to a nurse. The cafeteria line doesn't care who you are. The roast beef is the same for everyone. Nashville has more meat and 3 restaurants per capita than any other city in America. The format exists elsewhere. Variants appear across the South. But the term, the culture, and the religion of it are Nashville's. Food 4. Tennessee. Whiskey. This is not bourbon. Tennessee whiskey and bourbon share almost identical production requirements. At least 51% corn mash, new charred oak barrels, distilled under specific proofs. The one thing that separates them is a step called the Lincoln County process. Before the whiskey goes into barrels, it is slowly dripped through 10 feet of sugar maple charcoal over 3 to 5 days. The charcoal strips out impurities and congeners, smoothing the spirit before a single day of aging has occurred. The process was developed in Lincoln County, Tennessee, now Moore County, in the mid-1800s. The man most credited with teaching it was Nathan Nearest Green, a formerly enslaved distiller who taught the young Jack Daniel everything he knew about making whiskey. Green was later named the first master distiller at Jack Daniel's distillery. For over a century, his name was erased from the official history. In 2017, Fawn Weaver launched Uncle Nearest Premium Whiskey in Green's honor, and the brand quickly became the most awarded American whiskey for multiple consecutive years. Jack Daniel's, founded in 1866 and now the best-selling American whiskey in the world, is made in Lynchburg, which is, ironically, a dry county where no Jack Daniel's can be legally sold. The distillery runs tours anyway. Over 250,000 people visit per year. Tennessee whiskey isn't a style born from Nashville proper, but Nashville is the capital of the culture, the history, and the ongoing reckoning about who actually built it. Food 5. The hot chicken sandwich as a national format. Wait, didn't we already cover hot chicken? We covered the dish. This is about the format. Nashville. Hot chicken, in its original form at Prince's, is a piece of bone-in chicken, breast, thigh, or quarter, painted with spice paste and served on 2 slices of white bread with pickle chips. It is not a sandwich. The bread is there to absorb grease and temper heat, not to construct something you hold with both hands. The hot chicken sandwich, breaded breast fillet, brioche bun, pickles, sauce, is a different invention. And its national breakthrough came in 2019 when Popeyes launched their chicken sandwich and triggered what food media called a chicken sandwich war. The Popeyes sandwich was inspired by Nashville hot chicken. Chick-fil-A, McDonald's, Wendy's, KFC all reformulated or re-emphasized their chicken sandwiches in response. The chicken sandwich is now one of the most contested product categories in American fast food. The entire category, billions of dollars in annual sales, traces its flavor inspiration directly to the dish a woman made out of spite in a Nashville kitchen in the 1930s. The sandwich is the commercialized translation of the original revenge recipe, and Nashville is where it started. Food 6. Fruit tea. This one almost nobody outside of Nashville has ever heard of, and it has no single inventor, no precise origin date, and no recipe that 2 restaurants agree on. Fruit tea is Nashville's house drink. It's sweet iced tea, already a Southern staple, blended with fruit juice, orange juice, lemon juice, pineapple juice, sometimes ginger ale, sometimes cinnamon, sometimes a splash of grenadine. The proportions vary by restaurant. The result is something brighter and more complex than plain sweet tea, more accessible than a cocktail, cold and sweet and deeply Southern in the way it makes no apologies for being sweet. For at least half a century, fruit tea has been standard at Nashville's lunch spots. The Loveless Cafe, Frothy Monkey, the Puffy Muffin, Calypso Cafe. It is the drink of the Nashville lunching tradition, the meal you have after church, the business lunch that starts at 11:30 a.m. before the crowd arrives, the thing you order without looking at the menu because you already know. Nobody invented fruit tea. It evolved in Nashville's kitchens the way all great local food evolves. One restaurant tried something, another borrowed it, another changed it slightly, and suddenly it was just there, everywhere, the way the city drinks. Food 7. The chafing dish casserole culture. Green bean casserole adjacent. Here's a Nashville-specific story that connects to one of the most ubiquitous dishes in America. Nashville didn't invent the green bean casserole. That was a Dorcas Riley at Campbell's Soup Company in 1955. But Nashville did something arguably more important. It became the city that institutionalized the covered dish, community feeding tradition more completely than almost anywhere else in America, and that tradition is directly responsible for why that casserole exists at all. The covered dish, what Nashville calls the carry-in, what the rest of America calls the potluck, is the backbone of Nashville's community food culture. Church potlucks, funeral repasts, neighborhood suppers, Grand Ole Opry watch parties. Nashville's social life has always been organized around the table where everyone brings something and no one goes hungry. The meat and three grew from this tradition. Hot chicken grew from it. The GooGoo cluster was marketed through it. Nashville's contribution to American food is not just specific dishes. It's a philosophy of feeding. You make enough for the table, you put it on the steam table, you let everyone serve themselves, you don't ask what anyone paid for or what they brought because that's not the point. That philosophy produced a food culture that the rest of the country has been borrowing ever since. Food 8. Country ham. Tennessee. Country ham predates Nashville itself. But Nashville is where the culture of dry-cured, salt-packed, hickory-smoked, aged for months pork leg became codified as a regional identity. Country ham is not the pink, moist ham you find pre-sliced at a deli counter. It is an intensely salty, dense, deeply funky cured meat that has been rubbed in salt and sugar, hung to dry for months, sometimes smoked, sometimes aged for a year or more. The result is something closer to Italian prosciutto crudo or Spanish jamon serrano than to anything you'd find at a holiday dinner, except that it has been made in Tennessee farmhouses for over 2 centuries. The Loveless Cafe in Nashville, opened since 1951, has built its entire reputation around country ham served with homemade biscuits and preserves. The breakfast plate at the Loveless, sliced country ham, red-eye gravy made from the ham drippings and black coffee, a biscuit hot from the oven, is one of the definitive eating experiences in American food. Nashville didn't invent country ham. Appalachian settlers did. But Nashville turned it into an institution, made it the centerpiece of the city's most beloved breakfast tradition, and kept it alive when the rest of the country moved on to easier, milder, less complicated pork. Food 9. The Honky Tonk Plate Lunch. Nashville invented a specific category of food experience that exists nowhere else in exactly the same form. The working-class lunch served inside a bar that's playing live music at noon. The Honky Tonk Plate Lunch is not a single dish. It's a context. On Lower Broadway and the bars that have been running live country music since the 1940s and 1950s, lunch is served. The food is simple: burgers, wings, nachos, some version of meat and sides. But the experience is the combination. Eating in the middle of the afternoon while a band plays Hank Williams covers 10 feet away, surrounded by a crowd that's equal parts tourists, construction workers on a break, and musicians who played a 2 a.m. set the night before and haven't quite gone to sleep yet. Robert's Western World on Broadway has served bologna sandwiches, fried bologna on white bread with mustard, as their signature lunch item for decades. $1 for the sandwich. The same dollar that used to cover the cover charge. The food exists to keep you drinking. The music exists to keep you in the bar. And somehow the whole thing became one of the most specific, most imitated, and least replicable dining experiences in America. You can open a honky-tonk anywhere. You cannot recreate what happens on Lower Broadway at 2 p.m. on a Tuesday. Nashville knows this and doesn't try to explain it. Food 10. The biscuit. As high art. Every southern city has biscuits. Nashville decided to take the concept seriously. The southern biscuit, buttermilk, lard or butter, flour, a hot oven, 10 to 12 minutes, is one of the foundational foods of American cooking. It requires almost no ingredients, produces something transformative, and serves as the base vehicle for an entire ecosystem of southern breakfast. Sausage gravy, country ham, fried chicken, apple butter, honey, hot sauce, a fried egg. Nashville didn't invent the biscuit. But in the 2000s, Nashville became the city that elevated the biscuit from a side dish to a destination. Biscuit Love, which started as a food truck in 2012 and became a brick-and-mortar restaurant in 2015, built an entire culinary identity around the single question: what is the best possible biscuit, and what is the best possible thing to put on it? Their answer: the Bonuts, biscuit dough fried like a donut and glazed, topped with lemon mascarpone and blueberry compote, became one of the most talked-about breakfast items in the American South. The Nashville biscuit renaissance of the 2000s spread to other cities, inspired other concepts, and helped establish the idea that a working-class staple could anchor a serious restaurant. The biscuit didn't need to be upgraded. It needed to be respected. Nashville gave it that. 10 foods, 10 stories, one city that's been cooking longer than it's been famous. A woman whose name nobody remembers cooked the most copied dish in American fast food. A candy maker named his invention after his baby's first words and accidentally invented every combination candy bar that followed. A factory cafeteria in the 1930s figured out how to feed a city efficiently and created a dining format that's still Nashville's greatest contribution to lunchtime. A formerly enslaved distiller taught a white man to make whiskey and watched his name disappear from the history books for 100 years. Nashville gets credit for country music. It gets credit for the Grand Ole Opry, for the Ryman, for Music Row. It doesn't always get credit for what comes out of its kitchens. It should. Stay curious.